Okay, so all right. Hi everybody, Ryan Movie Guy here again. We are back for a special Father's Day episode. Really happy to celebrate with all you dads out there. All the best, and I know I had a good time. Really happy to celebrate my dad as well. But today we are joined by a very special guest for a couple of movies. So I wasn't planning to do this originally, but I'm like, it's Father's Day. I want to get something out there. So my good friend Anna Ladoucer is here to join us. So, hi, Anna.
Hi, Ryan.
What's going on?
I am chilling in my room after the worst Father's Day meal of all time.
Oh, boy.
Mhm.
So, yeah, tell us a little bit about that. How was your Father's Day?
It was good. We thought it would be fun to go to Canada, and so we went to a restaurant in Canada. First mistake, am I right, Americans? Um,
Nothing
yeah,
happens in Canada.
we went for like a some burger joint. I choked. The wait staff was horrific. Food was subpar at best. Also, when we got there, they were like, "Leave." They didn't say that outright, but that was
You
the
could tell
vibe.
there was a vibe going on. Yeah,
There
yeah.
was a vibe that we were not welcome.
They smelled the American on you guys. They were like,
They
oh.
said there are Yankees in this establishment.
It's like one of those times where like you just open the door and like everybody turns as soon as you
Hmm.
enter the restaurant.
Hmm.
Oh man. Sorry about that. I mean, my Father's Day was pretty good.
What
It
y'all
was
do?
very low key. So like my sister planned like a brunch with my dad and everything.
Oh, nice.
Um, yeah, but this is usually a special time. Unfortunately, I didn't get to. I think I did post a video on Mother's Day, but it wasn't related to the holiday, so I'm probably gonna try and do something to make up
Mm.
for that.
We
But
got our master's degree on Mother's Day.
that is true. So we kind of have an excuse there.
Happy Mother's Day to us.
Yes, happy Mother's Day to all the graduates of 2023.
Mhm. Happy
You
Mother's
guys are
Day
all moms.
to cohort 75.
Work mama.
Work mama.
Yes.
To all the working mamas, WERKING.
Oh my God. Link in the description. But anyway, no, I'm really excited to talk about these movies. So, those of you who don't know, the title's going to give it away. We are talking about the Father of the Bride movies with starring no other than Steve Martin, one of the greatest comedians who's ever lived. Of course, there's the original with Spencer Tracy, which is like a decent film in its own right, but obviously the ones that people mostly hold in their regard. Yeah, I saw some hesitation. I mean, the ones that most people hold in high regard are the Steve Martin films. And when you watch them, you can see why. They're just, we were just saying this before I started recording. They're such positive movies. And it's one of those things where it's like, they're really hard to not like. So I was just wondering, like, what do these movies mean to you? And why do you think they're still regarded as great comedies today?
Yeah, so I saw the both of them for the first time when I was probably 4. Um, and it was special for me because I did watch them both with my mom because they're two of her favorite movies. And of course, I have his entire face, but I am a daddy's girl.
Yeah.
Um, so it's like there are a lot of things in the Father of the Bride cinematic universe that are paralleled with my life. I mean, the main character, Annie. Need
Instant
I say
right
more?
there.
But yeah, the kind of like goofy, thinks he's the head of the household kind of father figure that George Banks is very, very similar to my father.
Yeah.
So right from the beginning, I think that, people who have quirky dads, this is a movie for us. Um, and it's really the comedy of it is so it's like it's one of those movies where like the humor will translate in any year that it is watched
Yeah.
because there will always be qualms and quarrels when two families are like joining for the first time, and
Oh yeah.
you know when Brian, of course, enters the family. He's from like hoity-toity rich town. But also, are we supposed to be acting like the Banks family or like bottom of the barrel poor? They have like this gargantuan house in
Uh,
it's in Beverly Hills, right?
I believe so, yeah. It's
Yeah.
like there's a joke that the whole thing with John Hughes movies that one of my favorite YouTubers talks about is how like, they're still like a lot of them are well done, but it's like, oh my God, all my problems in my giant mansion in Chicago
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
everything.
Like this is we are fed this movie in the sense that we're supposed to view the Banks as like the poor farm 1960s version of life. And the Mackenzies are like millionaire estates. But it's just a I love this is a great movie. Do you know who wrote this movie? Because I don't.
Who wrote it?
Yeah.
So yeah, I have Father of the Bride up here actually. So it was written by, it actually has four writers or credited writers. So Francis Goodrich, Albert Hackett, Nancy Myers, and
Oh,
Frank Shire. Yeah,
okay.
so as a
That's a
pretty
stacked
solid.
lineup.
Yeah, Nancy Myers, of course, like involved in like The Holiday and The Parent Trap,
Yeah.
so she has a name. She's probably like the
Mhm.
one that stands out the most of that
Yeah.
list. So
Um, yeah, now that you tell now that I know that Nancy Myers is on this, but these are two movies that kind of scream Nancy Myers. I don't want to say cinematic universe again, but I will.
they were
Um,
doing it before Marvel, damn it.
yeah, they were, and these ones are better. Um,
Honestly, I probably would watch these over a lot of Marvel movies, if I'm being honest. Yeah.
I mean, you're preaching to the choir. But when you watch these movies, I also think they're kind of like the golden standard of having like original characters.
Yeah.
Brian, you and I both know we went through intro screenwriting courses during our
Hmm.
master's degree. And one of the big questions for character development is how would this character order a coffee? And I feel like it's just like set in stone, ABC. You know how each character would do that when you watch these movies. And like, I mean, the Mackenzies are hilarious because they're these like ivory tower sap bags. The father, Brian's father, is one of my favorite characters ever written. In the second one, when he kisses the dogs on the mouth goodbye,
Oh.
is just it's so it's so it just perfectly fits his character. And then Frank, obviously one of the greatest characters ever written.
Yeah.
Um, George Banks, obviously. I want to name my first son George after George Banks. Like that's kind of the impact that watching these films have. And I feel like it's one of those movies that is like a time capsule generational one in the sense that, I watched these when I was young. I will show these movies to my children. It's
Yeah.
just, feel good movies that like you remember the peaceful times of when you were watching them. They're good comfort movies if you're anxious.
Yeah.
Like they're
Feel
just
like a warm blanket type movie.
yeah, they're warm blanket type of movies.
Yeah, it's like I definitely have those movies too, in my mind. Like a lot of stuff that I watched with my grandmother growing up because she's kind of the one. I feel like, I've loved movies since I was little, but I feel like a lot of my family, like I owe them different aspects of film. Like my
Hmm.
grandmother just allowed me to watch a lot of crazy stuff when I was
Yeah.
little. Like I literally watched like Scorsese movies with her when I was like 10.
Hmm.
Like I'll still remember like watching a movie like The Great Outdoors with John Candy with her.
That's a great movie.
I you know what, guys, by the way, a side note, check out Great Outdoors. It's really
That's a
like
great
honestly,
movie.
like, is it gonna win Best Picture? No, but like if you just want to watch, it's a really good summer movie. It's like one of those days where like if you're on vacation or there's like let's say it's raining or there's nothing to do that day, just pop in Great Outdoors, get some popcorn. A
Hmm.
really fun time with the family. And I think that Father of the Bride fits into that category, but I think it's also a step above it too because there's really a lot of heart to it, and a lot of that comes back to Steve Martin, who is kind of like I don't want to say the beating heart because there's a lot of great moments, but he really is like the focal point.
Hmm.
So
Yeah. he represents that, like, even he's the head of that sneaker company, he's well established, you know. Old people are crazy too. That's the plot. That's the takeaway from these movies. Um, but like you said, the beating heart of these movies is that how much he cares, George Banks cares about Annie,
Yeah.
is kind of, it's just, that's a, I don't want to use the word trope, but I can't figure out the proper verbiage to
Yeah.
describe
Verbiage.
what that is.
Shout out to Marky P, by the way,
Shout out
verbiage.
to Mark Balmerine. Um, he's somewhere given the full Monty. He, but it's just, it's one of those feel good, like, you can sense the just amount of love that is in these movies that George has for Annie. And I think a lot of father-daughter movies, I can't name any that kind of do it as well as Father of the Bride, parts 1 and 2.
Yeah.
And does Kieran McCauley play Logan Roy?
Oh, Kieran Culkin?
Yeah. What'd I say? Kieran McCulkin? Sorry, I
Kieran
did
McCulkin.
Macaulay and Culkin together.
It's just like a mixture of his brother.
Mhm.
Yeah, he plays Roman on the show.
Roman, I mean,
Yeah.
precursor to Roman. He played Matty Banks in Father of the
Yeah.
Bride. I will never know him as his Succession
Counterpart.
character.
Yeah.
I will know him in every sense for the rest of my life as Matty Banks.
Yeah, I know too, like another thing about these two, like I'm thinking father-daughter stories like I want to say Curly Sue is one, but that was like one of John Hughes's weaker films. Um
Yeah.
yeah, just like a lot there were a lot of like father-daughter films from the 90s I remember, but I think it's because a lot of them were trying to recapture what these movies were doing. I
Mhm.
remember completely different movie, but I remember like when Michael Bay was doing Transformers 4 and he's like, I wanted to tell a father-daughter story. But like you watch that movie, like just watch 5 seconds of it and it's just a
Yeah.
joke. Like you don't believe Mark Wahlberg's character and
Mhm.
the daughter's kind of like barely a character. I
Yeah.
mean, there's a lot of her in the movie. I'm just saying there's not much to her character.
Yeah.
Here I go again on my channel talking about Transformers for like the third time.
It's
Um,
also like if you see a father-daughter movie, I feel like a big part of those movies is that the daughter is taking care of the father. It's
yeah,
never like father's point in the movie is to care about his daughter. It's more like that the daughter feels like she has to take care of this old man in her life, and